We want to thank you all for watching The Homeless Left today here with Matt Weinglass and Jay Scott. We wanted to discuss an issue that was brought forth yesterday on my show, the Wednesday call-in show in New York. Somebody had called in, and he's a favorable caller. I call him the professor. His name is Kevin. He's from Rockaway. And he had discussed the fact that a lot of people, a lot of big money, and a lot of ruling class people in power in New York were going after Mamdani without merit and trying to put up fugazi kind of arguments that he's an anti-Semite, that he's a communist socialist, he's no good. But the fact that he is leading a movement that is really powerful. I had talked about, well, I'm somewhere in between, even though I appreciate the fact that he crushed the anti-Semite, blockade, which in other words, what they would do is say that this guy's an anti-Semite in New York. Everybody would be scared and frightened to be called an anti-Semite. They'd get in line, they boost and brag about Zionism and provide water, carry water for them. And that's the type of candidate you have. I'm very happy the fact that all the candidates that were on that stage during the last debate when they were asked for mayor, where they would go, they all said they would go to Israel, go touch the wall, same way Mike Johnson did, maybe go up there and support some illegal colonization and illegal settlements in the West Bank. Who knows what they would do, but they obviously were all in the tank for Israel, and Mamdani wasn't. And I thought it was good that there was at least a pushback there. And in fact, well, how do we even know if the election's fair or not? New York elections are some of the worst out there. So I'm 2 steps ahead of the game. One of the areas I said, well, listen, caller, Kevin, I see that you're excited about that, but I'm suspicious. I'm suspicious for several reasons. One of the reasons being the money. Where is he getting the money from? The donors, the same people who backed AOC, the same big money in which she got in a line where she had reversed her vote about supporting the Iron Dome because Mamba Bear told her to reverse her vote, and then her not even voting and supporting Marjorie Taylor Greene's vote. The same money that was behind her is the same money behind Mamdani. And we have to point that out. Also, too, as well, a few things that we need to point out. The fact is that his stance on mandates. I have a video over here I want us to review because that's a big thing, because he's kind of been silent and hasn't answered that, right? He did just make an announcement that he's going to police hate speech, which is another red flag, and he's using anti-Semitism as a way to do it. But look at this position. This is the first time I'll be looking at my friend Edwin DeJesus, who was one of the campaign managers, the 4 campaign managers. I did a story when I was on Jimmy Dore about Edwin DeJesus. Edwin DeJesus was like us, a leftist in the medical freedom movement, right? And Edwin DeJesus has gone to court hearings, whatnot, to support doctors, nurses, cops that lost their job for mandates. And the big question is, if you become mayor again, will you reinstate those who lost their job to a mandate? Remember, there are hundreds of thousands of people who still have not gotten any reciprocity, have not gotten any payment back, who've lost their job, have not been reinstated with back pay or reinstated, period. Here is Zohran Mamdani talking about the mandates. Let's take a watch.
2 questions. We have someone on the chat, Marlon Bethel, right? Like yourself, first-generation immigrant, NYPD police officer, rose to the rank of intelligence detective, terminated by the Eric Adams administration without due process, without a department trial, without ever being charged criminally or civilly for failure to take a vaccine. What are your thoughts on that? On your administration, would you hire Marlon Bethel back?
I struggle on this in that I think it is, on the one hand, can absolutely understand the frustration of someone who has lost their job in a time when the city is tearing apart so much of the same policies that were made at the height of COVID and has arbitrarily decided which ones to keep and which ones to take. I mean, I'm right now in the state legislature pushing back against the governor's attempt to ban masks, which would sound ridiculous if I told you that a few years ago when it was illegal to not wear a mask. And to have all of this at the same time, I understand where that frustration comes from. On the other hand, I also do deeply feel the importance of following public health mandates in a pandemic emergency, especially when you're a public worker. So I think ultimately, if you ask me today, would I be hiring Marlon back? I think I would fall on the side of no, because of the concerns around the necessity of upholding that public health mandate. And yet I also don't want to pretend that this is simple or straightforward, because there are so many contradictions. And I think that one of the contradictions that really stuck with me was how we had a different set of rules for workers than we did for celebrities. And I think what New Yorkers want is consistency. So that's where I am today, but I understand it's not simple, it's not straightforward.
But again, this is not really a vaccine issue, in my opinion. This is a civil rights issue. This is a worker rights issue. This is someone that worked for 2 years prior to this mandate during a pandemic when most New Yorkers were in there and was previously infected and had natural provable antibodies, which the CDC said were acceptable as to had the same level of protection that the vaccine did. This is more of a worker rights issue. So, sitting there and saying, oh, I care about homelessness, I care about worker rights, I care about the middle class, when we see a completely totalitarian dictate come down from a government that made absolutely no sense. Because like you just said it yourself, Kyrie Irving could play basketball, but Marlon Bethel couldn't go to work 2 years later. I mean, to me, it's kind of a hypocritical stance, in my opinion. How, because to me, this is not a vaccine issue at all. This is a civil rights, worker right issue. This set, honestly, New York City back, labor rights back, probably 100 years.
I mean, I hear you, and I understand the contradictions at the core of it. I think my concern comes from the likelihood of, that we could be in a new pandemic and the necessity of following the public health guidance that we put forward in that pandemic. To the places where I absolutely hear you is the contradictions of the guidance that we've been given thus far, what we're continuing to uphold, what we're rolling back. But that's the central core, the tension that I have is, in that moment when the science has us believe that this is the most effective way to counter it, shouldn't we have public workers be the ones who are the first to showcase the necessity of taking that step?
I got to find the rest of this interview out there. Yeah, you can take that down, Matt. It's so intriguing, right? I mean, right now, struggle. You struggle with it and whatnot. And it just shows you at the end of the day, this is the most exposing, you're full of shit, Zohran Mamdani whatsoever out there, right? You know what I'm saying? It shows that at the end of the day, you are going to still capitulate to what the base and the establishment want, and that's to be hysterical on COVID mandates and procedures, whatnot, even though the evidence is out there. Like, I would have wished, and like I said, I have to go find the rest of the interview, because for me, that would have been like when he said, when experts are saying this is the most effective way, that would have just been opening a Pandora's box for all of us to go right after Zohran. Well, did you not read Pfizer's own data on their shot, the shot that you said that person had to take to keep that job, because you're saying that experts said, because we now see that experts are wrong. Because so maybe you were wrong then, but can you not get right now? Have you read Pfizer's own data on that? You know what I'm saying? There's so many ways you can open this up. And listen, I just want to say really quickly that despite his answer being so wrong, that this is why we have to watch out for this guy, because he is so crafty. He is so politically savvy. I think Eric and John, the guy he did the interview with, definitely voted for Donald Trump. You got one guy with an American hat, another guy with an NYPD blue there. So for him to be able to talk and to have those answers and to just automatically go into mode on how to give an answer, right? To say, yeah, to the way he framed it. I'm kind of against that, what I'm seeing here, but I understand the concerns. It's like the ultimate form of fence sitting, where you're like, the guy sees my point, but he's still kind of going against me, so I'll give him a pass. Go ahead, guys.
Well, look, I'll say this. The great job with the interview. That's the right way to hit him on those points. But it's not a matter of that he's not hearing the points. What he's doing is he's playing this is beyond tribal politics. What he's doing is he's playing the mass formation psychosis ringleader, where you have as a COVIDian, you have to keep people ready. And so when he said that part about the next pandemic, we can't afford for people to ask questions. We can't afford to people to know these contradictions, which I'm telling you, you're right. Of course there's contradiction. So the way he challenges that, he says it's complicated. These are the same bullet points you hear from Zionists. It's the same bullet points you hear from Trump derangement syndrome people. It's the same. You say the greater good is that people stay in line. The greater good is that we compromise our values, we compromise our integrity, we compromise principles. which will obviously show contradictions. So we know there's contradictions in that, but it's more important for mass formation, mass compliance for the next time we need to do it. So no, I'm not going to demonstrate myself as somebody who wants to evolve and grow and do better at the next pandemic. I want to do exactly the same, because we are not going to be able to make money and keep our people in power if enough people are asking these questions, which are obvious questions. And we know, and I know, we all know that you're right, but it's more important that we win than we're right. And that's the key. And that's how you get into a Zionist mind. That's how you get into anybody who says it's not really about being right and wrong. It's about winning. And we have to win.
It's narcissism too, by the way.
That's it. So he's no different than the Zionists that he claims to be battling. He's no different than the Democratic Party, the Trump derangement syndrome people. He's no different than anybody that signs up for a game of win the game. It's not about right and wrong. It's about winning. So you can't have these discussions otherwise.
And I would argue, Matt and Jay, just to kind of set it up for you, kind of give you that little volley so you can spike it down. How would, like this, if this is going back to the discussion we had about RFK, these are the discussions that we needed to have to make sure that moving forward, we couldn't be in a position to allow a politician to say, when the next virus happens, we got to be ready and stuff, because we didn't have these conversations, the conversations we thought that we would have with RFK. So my question to you, Jay Scott, is how do we go about it? Because I'm looking for a way for the left to start having conversations about COVID, right? Without getting ridiculed and demeaned and put in the corner like before. I mean, I'm on a Pacifico radio station, and somebody point blank asked me, they asked the question, and the second question was, and did you take the vaccine yourself, Craig Pasta Jardula? And it was at the end of his show. And I was sweating bullets here, because I understand that at the end of the day, the board of Pacifica is very Democratic establishment friendly. And this might be something that gets me stagnant, where I won't get more shows, more time, whatnot. So I'm still scared, and I'm looking for a way. So how would a politician from the left start to talk about this, Jay Scott?
Honesty, it's as simple as that. And number one, we just have to realize it's not going to be accomplished through the Democratic Party. And the reason we know that is because big pharma and the insurance companies are some of their biggest funders. And the way the Democratic Party works is, the national chairs and the state chairs kind of decide, whether or not your campaign funds are even going to exist, the next time you want to run an election. So if Mamdani was to get in and, go with an agenda that truly went against the Democratic Party, they just wouldn't allow him to access his campaign funds. They'd undermine his every move. They'd use their operatives in every other part of his office to undermine him and then get him kicked out. He would probably, wind up in some, crazy scandal because someone around under him went rogue, and then it got blamed on him. So there's so many ways, like that he could be undermined from within the Democratic Party. I think it's just as likely. I think we'll get the same result from, Trump's lock her up chant that we're going to get from Mamdani's promise to lock up Benjamin Netanyahu, if he lands in New York. It's the same thing, because it's within the Democratic Party. I mean, I don't know how many more times we have to go through the same level of heartbreak. With me, Bernie Sanders, 2016, the coffin was nearly nailed in. At that point, I was still entertaining the Democratic Party in 2020 somehow. But now, I just don't think there's any hope that we'll ever get significant change from that party. So I'd encourage everyone who's dealing with a Democratic candidate to realize that if they truly go against the system, then they're not going to have a place in the Democratic Party, because it's all controlled by the boards. And, real quick, just got to, lay the plug out there. There is a third party that has bylaws written differently that gives the power, of the state boards and of the national boards to the constituents, and that's the We the People Party. So hopefully, we can do more segments on that, as the time comes. So,
by the way, the same thing that you're talking about the Democrat now applies to the Republican Party too, via Donald Trump still craving Operation Warp Speed, man.
Yep. Duopoly, man. It's the same team, just two different factions, same team.
Okay, let me take a moment to introduce you to our good friends over at World Harvest Food Bank right here in LA. World Harvest has been serving families across Los Angeles for 18 years now, and they started with this simple idea. Everyone deserves access to healthy, affordable food no matter what they're going through. With their Cart with a Heart program, families can walk away with a full cart of groceries, fresh produce, dairy, meat, and pantry supplies for just a $50 contribution. That's for the entire cart. That same cart will cost over $300 at a typical grocery store. At World Harvest, everyone is welcome. They don't ask for income verification, ID, or any paperwork. No. Basically, their doors are open to anyone who's doing their best, but just needs a little extra push to get by. If you're an Angelino like me, you know the times have been tough here. First with all the union strikes, the LA fires, and now the ICE raids going on. It seems like we're living in a constant state of uncertainty. And that's why it's so important to support local charities like World Harvest, because they aren't just helping the community. They're an essential function in its very survival. World Harvest is located at Venice and Arlington. And right now, you can use our special discount code THL20 for 20% off your contribution amount at checkout. And if you're not in the LA area, you can still help out with a $50 donation, which will provide a full cart of food for a family by going to worldharvestfoodbank.org or scan the QR code for more info. Or you can just spread the word. Follow them online. Let people know they're here for them, because at the end of the day, it's about providing choice, access, and relief without barriers. World Harvest Food Bank. End hunger now.